Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Unlimited Podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jamie, and today we are getting into a topic that, well, it runs every single moment of our lives.
It really does.
But it's also the one thing we feel like we have the least control over. We're talking about time management.
And maybe even more than that, intentional living.
Exactly.
Because if you're anything like me, you just feel completely swamped by modern life. You wake up, you rush through emails, rush through tasks, and then suddenly it's Friday night. You look back and you're like, wait, what? What did I actually do this week?
Where did the time go?
Yeah, it's that feeling of just sort of going through the motions, and the weeks, the months, they just vanish into this big blur.
It's a real crisis, isn't it? We're all handling more information, more inputs than ever before.
For sure.
So our mission today is to give you the philosophy behind it, but also the practical systems, and of course, the essential English vocabulary to take back that control.
So what are we drawing from?
We've pulled from a whole range of sources, everything from deep cognitive science on how our brains even perceive time, which is called the time perception paradox, all the way down to these really concrete, actionable blueprints.
Like GTD.
Like getting things done, GTD, and the Pomodoro technique. We're covering it all.
Okay, before we even get into the systems, I had to share this one statistic that when I read it, it honestly just stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, yeah.
We always talk about life in years, right? Well, let's talk about it in weeks. The average person only has around 4,000 weeks
Yeah.
in their entire lifetime.
4,000 weeks, that's the number.
That's it.
And it sounds so abstract, doesn't it? Until you actually do the math for yourself. So if you're listening to this and maybe you're 40 years old,
You've already used more than half of them.
more than half, when you frame it like that, not as this infinite thing, but as a specific count, 4,000, it's a huge wake-up call.
It is.
Yeah.
It's sobering. And it immediately makes you rethink your priorities, doesn't it?
Cool.
If we only have 4,000 weeks, we have to make sure we're spending them intentionally, not accidentally.
And the sources say most people only spend about 30% of their day on things that actually matter to them, things that align with their real goals.
We're going to try and boost that number today.
We are. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're not just going to dissect these systems, we're also going to arm you with 4 essential English vocabulary items and idioms.
And one of those is the concept of a game changer, which is a fantastic phrase.
It is, and I'll be testing you on all of them at the end of this deep dive.
Okay, get ready to start using these words in your own life.
But first, before we dive in, please just take 2 seconds right now to subscribe to English Unlimited Podcast and like this episode. It really is the single most important thing you can do to help us keep making these for you.
Okay, let's do this. Let's unpack it.
Let's start with that really mind-bending idea you mentioned, the time perception paradox.
Right. This is all about that feeling we all have, that time just speeds up as we get older.
It's almost a universal experience. Think back to when you were, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10, a single summer vacation. It felt like an eternity, didn't it?
It was endless. It stretched out forever.
And now, you blink and it's suddenly December again. This isn't just a feeling, though. This is rooted in actual cognitive science.
Okay, so how does the brain actually measure time if it's not looking at a clock?
So, our brains basically measure time by the sheer amount of new experiences it has to record.
New experiences, okay.
When we're kids, almost every single thing is new. New sights, new people, new skills. Our brain's hippocampus is just working overtime, creating these super dense, detailed memories for everything.
And because there's so much new information to record.
The experience of that time feels incredibly slow and long.
That is fascinating. So a kid walking down the street is recording like 100 new details. But me, walking down the same street I walk down every day, I'm recording maybe 5.
Precisely. As adults, our brains crave efficiency, so we create routines. Same breakfast, same commute, same desk. It's great for saving energy, but it's terrible for making memories.
So the days just blend together.
They get stored as one big, continuous, undifferentiated block. The sources use a great analogy. Driving to a new city for the first time feels so long because you're noticing every sign, every landmark.
Right. But once it's your daily commute,
It feels much shorter. You're barely even paying attention.
I can totally relate to that. The first day at a new job, every hour feels so important. But a year later, the whole week just poof,
It
vanishes.
vanishes because your brain is trying to be efficient. So the fix, the action you can take, it's actually kind of counterintuitive.
Okay.
To stretch time, you have to break your routine. You have to introduce novelty.
It doesn't have to be something huge, right?
Not at all. It could be learning a new word in English. Hey, like the ones we're teaching today.
Nice one.
Or just taking a different route to the supermarket. Anything that forces your brain off of that cruise control setting.
So that feeling of time speeding up, it's really just a symptom of being too predictable. We need to actively inject the unpredictable to slow things down.
You got it.
Speaking of cruise control, when we get into that routine, we feel like we're just going through the motions. The text says we are on autopilot. Now, our listeners probably know that word from planes.
Right, from aviation.
But how do we use autopilot to talk about, our daily life?
That's a great question, because this is a perfect example of English taking a technical word and using it for a human experience. In plain English, being on autopilot just means you're doing something automatically, without conscious thought, without your full attention.
So your body's there, but your mind isn't.
Exactly. Your body is just executing a pattern. It's really the enemy of intentional living.
So if I'm, say, eating dinner while I'm looking at my phone, and later I can't even remember what the food tasted like, was I eating on autopilot?
Yes, 100%. Your hands and mouth were working, but your mind was somewhere else. You completely missed the experience.
I see.
Let's do 3 quick examples to really lock this in for everyone.
Okay.
First, a formal one. You might hear this at work. Once the financial quarter closed, the administrative tasks shifted to autopilot, allowing the team leader to focus on strategy.
Got it. Standard tasks.
Second, a more casual, everyday one. I was so worried about my presentation that I walked home on autopilot and realized I was standing outside my neighbor's door instead of my own.
I've absolutely done that.
And third, a kind of funny or weird one. I just realized I poured orange juice into my cereal this morning. I must have been on complete breakfast autopilot.
Okay, I get the usage. But I have a question about this. Bit of a challenge, maybe?
Go for it.
Isn't being on autopilot sometimes necessary? I mean, if I had to consciously think about every single step of tying my shoes or driving my car every morning, I'd be exhausted. I'd never get anything done.
That is a really sharp point, and you're absolutely right. Autopilot is fantastic for executing necessary, low-value, repetitive tasks.
So where's the danger?
The danger is when we let the high-value things slip onto autopilot. Conversations with your family, creative work, deep thinking.
Okay.
The key is being intentional about it. Deciding what you allow to run on autopilot and what gets your full present attention. When you start getting that "where did the week go" feeling, that's your sign that too much has slipped.
That reframes it perfectly. It's about consciously choosing where your attention goes. Okay, let's try a quick role play.
Let's do it.
Hey, I saw you at the gym this morning. You were doing squats. I waved, but you just stared right through me. You seemed totally zoned out.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I remember physically being there, but I think my mind was already running through my to-do list for the day. I was definitely operating on total autopilot. I probably didn't even hear the music.
See, physically there, mentally checked out, the experience was totally lost. That's autopilot in action.
It is. And for our listeners, pay attention to the words we use with autopilot. Common collocations are go into autopilot, stuck on autopilot, and, like we just said, operating on autopilot.
It's a powerful phrase.
Okay, so moving on from the danger of autopilot, let's talk about the phrase that might be the biggest killer of intentional living.
Let me guess. I'll do it someday.
That's the one. The source material called it a dangerous word.
I think it said it was like a comfy couch of procrastination.
Which is perfect. Someday is where dreams go to die, really. We say it to feel better about delaying something important without actually committing to anything.
And the reason we do that is often this perfectionism trap, right? We're waiting for the perfect time.
Yes. Waiting for more energy or a totally free afternoon or more money or just feeling motivated.
It's like that analogy of waiting for all the traffic lights to turn green before you leave your house.
You'll be waiting forever. If you wait for perfection, you just guarantee you'll never start.
So what's the fix? What if the task really does feel huge and overwhelming?
Then you have to break it down. You have to move from the vague someday to a specific, tiny action you can do today.
So instead of, I'll start my business someday,
it's, I'll spend 5 minutes researching domain names today, or I'll watch one 10-minute tutorial on YouTube. That tiny step creates momentum. And momentum, not motivation, is what keeps you going.
making the start so small it's impossible to fail.
I like that. And once you get that momentum, the next challenge is prioritization.
Hmm?
Because we have this
Okay.
constant flood of distractions, emails, notifications, urgent requests, it feels like we have to do everything.
This is where we need a tool to cut through all that noise.
And the source suggests a really powerful concept. It's a bit intense, but it's very clarifying. It's called the deathbed test.
The deathbed test. Okay, tell us how it works.
You just imagine yourself at, say, age 90. You're looking back on your life, and you ask yourself, what were the moments I truly cherish?
Okay.
Did those extra 6 hours I spent clearing out my email inbox on a Saturday, did that make the list? Or was it the time I spent teaching my kid to ride a bike? Or that trip I took with my best friend?
Wow. So you're using the perspective of your future self to guide your present self. The things that will matter on your deathbed, those are your non-negotiables today.
Exactly. If family is your top value, then family time has to be scheduled first and protected like a fortress. This test helps you spot the time wasters, the things that feel really urgent but are actually deeply unimportant in the long run.
I think so many of us confuse busy with important.
All the time.
If you're constantly answering emails, you feel busy, you feel productive. But are you actually moving your life forward? Probably not.
That's the whole distinction. Intentional living is about recognizing that time is finite. It's more valuable than money because you can never, ever get more of it.
So protecting that resource, your time wealth, is the highest priority. And that starts with challenging someday and setting priorities that pass the deathbed test.
Okay, so we set the stage with the philosophy. We need to avoid autopilot, stop saying someday, and use the deathbed test to prioritize.
Right. But now, how do we actually build a system to handle all the stuff coming at us every day? Let's get practical and look at GTD, getting things done.
Yes. And GTD, which was developed by David Allen, is often misunderstood. People think it's just a to-do list system.
But it's not.
It's fundamentally a stress reduction system. Its main insight is that stress isn't caused by having too much to do. It's caused by having too many undefined commitments floating around in your head.
So our brain is really bad at being a storage unit. It's meant to be a processor, not a hard drive.
That's a perfect way to put it. Allen calls those things in your head open loops. Any task or idea or worry that you haven't decided the very next action for is an open loop. And they just eat up your mental energy.
There's an inverse relationship.
Total inverse relationship. Yeah. The more stuff you try to keep in your head, the less your head is able to focus on the one thing you're actually trying to do.
So GTD's goal is to get all of that stuff out of your head and into a, what does he call it? A trusted external system.
A trusted external system. And trusted is the key word there. It has to be something, 100% that you will check regularly. Otherwise, your brain will just start worrying again.
It won't let go.
It won't. And the genius of GTD is this 5-step workflow for processing all those open loops. We can walk through them with an example.
Okay, let's use a big project, like plan a friend's surprise birthday party.
Perfect. So, step 1, capture. The goal here is just to empty your brain completely. Anytime a thought pops into your head, I need to buy a cake, remember to invite Sarah, what about decorations? You immediately write it down.
So I just capture everything in one place, my inbox.
In your inbox, a notebook, an app, whatever, no filtering, just get it all out, all that raw data.
Okay, got it.
Step 2, clarify. Now you go through that inbox regularly, and for each item you ask, is this actionable? Does it require a physical step?
And if it's not actionable,
you either file it as reference, trash it, or put it on a someday maybe list. If it is actionable, you then ask, what is the very next physical step?
This is where that famous 2-minute rule comes in, right?
The sacred 2-minute rule. If the next action takes less than 2 minutes, you do it immediately.
Don't even write it down, just do it.
It takes less time to just do it than to organize it and track it for later. So for your party, if the task is email Sarah to confirm the date, and that takes 90 seconds, you just do it right then.
Okay. What if it takes more than 2 minutes?
Then we move to step 3, organize. This is where you put that task on the right list, and you are never allowed to put it back in the inbox.
Because the inbox is for unprocessed stuff only.
Correct. So if music is too big, that becomes a project. The next action, maybe research DJs online, goes on your next actions list. And you can even categorize that list by context.
Context lists are so smart.
Yeah.
So I'd have a list for things to do at computer, another for at the store, another for calls to make.
Exactly. So you're not trying to research DJs when you're at the grocery store. It ensures you're doing the right thing in the right place.
Makes sense.
Then there's step 4, reflect. This is the heart of the whole system. The weekly review. The system is useless if you don't trust it, and you only trust it if you review it.
So once a week, you look at everything, all your lists, all your projects.
And you make sure every project has a clear next action assigned to it.
Yeah.
This is where you use that deathbed test we talk about to make sure you're working on the right things.
It's quality control for your life.
It is. And finally, step 5, engage. This is when you actually do the work. But you don't just pick the easiest task. You choose based on 4 things: your context, the time you have, your energy level, and the priority you've assigned.
So that whole system, when you break it down, isn't really about doing things faster.
Yeah.
It's about reducing the mental stress so your mind can be clear.
And that mental clarity leads to this desired state that David Allen talks about. He uses this beautiful martial arts simile.
The mind like water analogy, I love this idea.
It's so powerful. Think of a perfectly still pond. It's totally calm, ready for anything. If you throw a tiny pebble into it, the water responds with a little splash, and then immediately it's calm again.
And if you throw a huge boulder in,
It responds with a huge splash, totally appropriate to the size of the boulder, and then it immediately returns to being perfectly still.
so the response is always appropriate to the thing that happens, but the default state is always calm.
Precisely. The opposite is a mind that's always rippling with stress, where even a tiny pebble causes a huge anxious reaction. But when you have that trusted external system, your mind is free from having to remember everything. It can achieve what's called quiescence.
Quiescence, calmness, stillness.
And that freedom is everything. If you know all the birthday party details are safe in your system, your brain doesn't have to keep worrying about forgetting the cake. It frees up all this mental energy.
Which lets you focus intensely.
Which brings us to our next vocabulary item.
Okay, I heard the term game changer used to describe this kind of focused work. It sounds like a sports phrase. Like a player who comes into the game and totally changes the score.
It does come from sports.
But can we use game changers in like a professional email or for studying?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most dynamic and high-impact idioms in modern English. In plain English, a game changer is a new idea or a new person or a new factor that completely and fundamentally changes the situation.
So it's not just a small improvement, it's like a revolution.
It's a revolution in your approach. It makes everything that came before it seem, well, a bit outdated.
Got it.
Let's do 3 examples to show how flexible it is.
Okay.
First, a formal business one. The shift to fully remote work proved to be a game changer for the startup, reducing costs and increasing employee satisfaction.
Makes sense.
Second, a casual personal one. I used to try to study English vocabulary while watching TV, but switching to 25 minutes of silent, focused work every morning was a total game changer for my retention.
I can relate to that one.
And third, a kind of funny one. I thought I hated gardening until I bought one of those tiny automatic watering systems. That little device was a culinary game changer for my balcony tomato plants.
I think I need a culinary game changer for my own cooking. But let's role play this. Okay. I'm really struggling with focus lately. I'm trying to write a report, answer my emails, and plan my next project all at the same time. I keep switching tabs, and I feel so tired, but I haven't finished anything.
Oh, I get that. I used to be stuck there too.
Yeah.
But for me, the game changer was physically turning off my Wi-Fi when I need to write.
No internet.
No internet, no email notifications, nothing. Just me and the document for 45 minutes. It forces you to single task.
Wow. You just physically removed the distraction? I always thought I needed the internet nearby for, quick research. But maybe that's just an excuse.
It often is.
Taking away the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That sounds like a real game changer for deep work.
It completely changed the outcome of my work sessions. So for our listeners, some common collocations are a real game changer or saying something completely changed the game. It's always about a big positive turning point.
All right, so we have the mindset, we have the system for processing everything with GTD. Now we need to talk about how we actually schedule our day. We need scheduling tools.
Right. And we have 3 classic methods to look at. The Eisenhower matrix for prioritizing, and then time blocking and Pomodoro for actually doing the work.
Let's start with Eisenhower.
The Eisenhower method is a fantastic tool for deciding what to do now, what can wait, and what you can just get rid of. It comes from a philosophy from Dwight Eisenhower, the former U.S. president.
Well, his quote?
He said, "I have 2 kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent."
That quote is so critical. We always mistake things that are urgent, things that are demanding our attention right now, with things that are actually important to our long-term goals.
Exactly. Urgency is usually pushed on you by someone else, a ringing phone, an email. Importance is defined by you using something like that deathbed test.
So the Eisenhower matrix helps us sort our tasks.
into 4 quadrants based on those 2 criteria. Important, unimportant versus urgent, not urgent.
Okay, quadrant 1.
Quadrant 1, important and urgent. These are the crises, the real deadlines, the pressing problems. The rule is do it immediately. A plumbing leak, a medical emergency. You have to deal with these now.
The stressful stuff.
Yeah.
The goal is to have as few of these as possible.
That's the goal of good planning. Which brings us to quadrant 2. Important, but not urgent.
This is the quality quadrant.
This is where the magic happens. Long-term planning, relationship building, exercise, studying, your GTD weekly review. These are incredibly valuable, but because they don't have a screaming deadline, they get ignored.
So the rule for Q2 is?
Schedule it. You have to actively schedule and protect this time, or it will get destroyed by quadrant 3 demands.
Okay, which brings us to quadrant 3. Unimportant but urgent.
These are the tasks that feel like a fire alarm, but they do nothing for your actual goals. Many interruptions, some meetings, other people's problems that they dump on you.
And the rule here?
Delegate it. If you can't delegate it, just minimize the time you spend on it. Don't let it take over your day.
Got it. And finally, quadrant 4. Unimportant and not urgent.
The true time wasters. Endless scrolling on social media, unnecessary busy work. The rule here is simple. Drop it. Eliminate it from your life.
That matrix is such a clear way to see things. Every time a new task comes in, I need to ask myself, is this actually important to my goals?
That's the real test. And once we've identified our priorities, especially protecting that Q2 time, we need methods to execute them. That leads us to time blocking.
Time blocking is basically turning your to-do list into calendar appointments, isn't it?
That's the core idea. Instead of having a list item that says study English, you literally block out 9:00 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday and label it deep English grammar work.
It makes your day visual.
And the benefits are huge. First, it makes you single task. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Second, it creates a bit of artificial urgency. You know the block ends at 10:30, so you're motivated to finish.
And third, it forces you to be realistic. You can't block 16 hours of work into an 8-hour day. The calendar shows you it's impossible.
Exactly. I love that quote from Cal Newport in the sources that a 40-hour time-blocked week produces the same amount of work as a 60-plus hour unstructured week.
The efficiency gain is massive just by removing the "what should I do next?" question.
And you should also block off personal time. Lunch, exercise, downtime. Benjamin Franklin did this. He blocked time for deep work, but also for rest and reflection.
And the Pomodoro technique can work inside those blocks, right?
Yes, Pomodoro is like a micro time boxing method. It's named after the little tomato-shaped kitchen timer its inventor used.
And it's usually, 25 minutes of work and then a 5-minute break?
Typically, yes. 25 minutes of focused work, a short 5 to 10-minute break, and after 4 of those cycles, you take a longer break.
Okay, let me ask the tough question for our listeners, though. That 25-minute sprint is supposed to be indivisible, right? You can't break that.
That's the rule.
But what if I'm deep in study and I get an urgent text from my boss? Or I suddenly remember I left the stove on? Stopping the whole 25 minutes feels really inefficient.
That's where the discipline becomes the game changer. If the interruption is external, like a text, the strategy is inform, negotiate, schedule, call back.
So I'd quickly text back, "busy now, we'll reply in 15 minutes."
Exactly. You note it, you schedule it for your break, and you get right back to work. If the interruption is internal, like remembering the stove,
The GTD capture principle.
you got it. You quickly write it down on a notepad, you tell your brain, I'll deal with this during the break, and you get back to the task. The research shows these short, structured breaks are amazing for preventing mental fatigue.
Okay, so these are very precise tools. But life is messy. What happens when traffic is bad or a meeting runs late? This is where I think I need to build in some time buffers. I get the time part, but for our listeners, what exactly is a buffer here? Is it like a cushion?
A cushion is the perfect way to think about it. In plain English, a time buffer is a cushion of extra, unscheduled time that you deliberately leave in your schedule.
And its purpose is just to absorb the unexpected.
Exactly. To handle delays, or just allow for some spontaneity without your entire day collapsing.
The mistake I always make is what the sources called stacking dominoes too close. A meeting at 10, a task at 11, a call at 12.
And if that 10 o'clock meeting runs just 15 minutes late, the whole day is a mess. Your stress shoots up, you lose your mind, like water. Time buffers prevent that chain reaction.
They're an investment in peace of mind.
They are. Let's do 3 quick examples for the word buffer.
Okay.
First, a formal project management one. The engineering team added a 3-week buffer to the manufacturing phase, anticipating potential supply chain issues.
Enter practice.
Second, a casual personal one. I had a doctor's appointment at Four Wings, but I finished work at 2:30, leaving a generous 90-minute time buffer so I could grab a coffee and read before I went in.
That sounds lovely.
And third, a funny one. I've realized I need a 5-minute scream into a pillow time buffer between answering difficult emails and starting my creative writing.
Huh. That's a great form of self-care.
Yeah.
Okay, let's practice this. I'm feeling really stressed because between 3 and 4 p.m. today, I have to drop off my dry cleaning, pick up my kid from school, and be ready for a video call at 4.
That schedule is impossible. You've left zero room for error. You have no time buffer at all.
I know.
If the dry cleaner takes 2 extra minutes, the whole thing fails. You should have scheduled that video call for 4:30. That gives you a 30-minute buffer to handle any chaos.
That 30 minutes isn't wasted time. It's the price of calm.
Exactly. And the call occasions you'll hear are build a buffer, need a buffer, and you always want to aim for a generous buffer. It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Okay, so we've covered the how, the systems, but let's go back to the why. The whole point of this isn't just to be a productivity machine. It's to align what we do with what we value.
And that is the definition of intentional living.
It's about making a conscious choice.
A conscious effort to make sure your daily actions reflect your deepest beliefs. If you say you value health, intentional living means you proactively schedule time for exercise and cooking, not just hope you have time left over.
So it's about creating integrity between what you believe and what your calendar actually says.
Yes, and the goal, the destination of intentional living is time wealth. We keep coming back to this. Time is the one thing you can't make more of.
People make that trade-off all the time, don't they? They take a high-stress, 80-hour-a-week job to get financially wealthy.
But they become time poor. They have all this money but no time or energy to actually enjoy it.
So time wealth is having control over your own schedule. That's the real freedom.
It is, and a huge part of achieving that is focusing on experiences, not things. The sources point out that expensive gadgets, they just collect dust. They lose their value.
But a memory of a road trip, or a challenging hike, or learning a new skill.
Those experiences stick with you forever. They become part of who you are.
And they're novel. They force your brain off autopilot, which creates dense memories and slows down your perception of time. It's a perfect circle.
It is. Now, intentional living can be a personal thing, but it can also be a social thing. And when you take this philosophy to the highest level, you get the concept of intentional communities, or ICs.
Okay, what defines an intentional community? Is that just a fancy word for a commune?
It is a type of commune, yeah, but the definition is pretty broad. An IC is basically any voluntary residential community that's designed around shared values.
So the values could be anything.
Could be political, utopian, religious, spiritual, or focused on ecology, like an eco-village. It's a conscious choice to design a life that pushes back against modern isolation.
So instead of living in separate houses, it's about choosing to live collaboratively.
Exactly. And they can look very different. From co-housing projects where people just share some chores, all the way to historical religious settlements or Israeli kibbutzim.
And what were the core characteristics?
Historically, many of them rejected hierarchy. They focused on a human scale, so they were anti-industrial, and they often shared all resources through what they called a common purse.
The source mentioned one in Ireland, the Rollageen estate.
Yes, in the 1830s, it was this early socialist experiment. They used their own credit notes instead of money, and everything was shared equally. And for 2 years, it worked beautifully.
But then it collapsed.
It collapsed because the landlord who owned the land had massive gambling debts, and the whole estate was seized.
Wow, that's a powerful lesson. Even a perfect internal system can be destroyed by outside forces. But the core idea that held them together was fairness and equality.
That commitment to fairness, yes. Which brings us to our final and longest vocabulary item.
Okay. When talking about these communities, the text uses the word egalitarian. It sounds really long and academic. Can you break that down for us? How can we use it in a normal conversation?
I love this word because it represents such a core human value. So egalitarian, it's pronounced egalitarian. Egalitarian. And it's an adjective. In plain English, an egalitarian idea or system is one that's based on the belief that all people should have equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal access to resources.
So it's all about fairness. It's the opposite of a strict hierarchy.
Exactly. It's about balanced responsibility and balanced benefits. Let's look at 3 ways you can use it.
Okay.
First, the formal political use. The new policy aims to create a more egalitarian society by ensuring universal access to education.
Got it.
Second, a casual workplace example. The new manager has a very egalitarian style. Even the interns are encouraged to share their opinions in meetings.
I'd like to work there.
And third, a funny or weird one. In our family, we have a perfectly egalitarian method for dividing the last slice of pizza. The youngest person cuts it, and the oldest person gets to choose their piece first.
Ah, that's brilliant. It forces the cutter to be fair. Okay, let's role play this. My friends and I are trying to plan a group trip, and we keep arguing about who has to do the boring stuff, like researching flights and tracking the money.
Ugh, the classic group project conflict. You need to establish some egalitarian rules right away.
How would that work?
Instead of one person being the default planner, you all agree to take on one major, equally difficult task. One person researches flights, one handles hotels, one manages the budget, one plans activities. The workload is distributed based on egalitarian principles.
So embracing egalitarian values means sharing the work and the fun equally. That prevents anyone from feeling resentful. That makes perfect sense.
And the collocations to remember are egalitarian society, embrace egalitarianism and egalitarian values. It's a great word for talking about fairness.
All right, Jamie, let's do our common mistakes segment.
Let's do it.
So for our B1 learners, when they're talking about scheduling rest time, they might say something like, I need to schedule some break for reflection this weekend. Is that okay?
It's perfectly understandable. It's not grammatically wrong. But a native speaker, especially in this context of productivity and professional scheduling, would probably use a better, more specific word.
And that word is?
Downtime.
Downtime. It sounds kind of industrial, like when a machine is turned off for maintenance.
And that's the whole point. That's the key connection. A break usually feels short and informal, like a coffee break. Downtime implies a scheduled, essential period of rest. It frames rest not as a luxury, but as mandatory maintenance for your brain.
So it gives it more importance.
It validates it. It makes it part of the productivity cycle, not an escape from it.
So instead of saying, I need to schedule a break on Sunday, what's the better native speaker way?
A native speaker would say something like, I always schedule some guaranteed downtime on Sunday evenings to recharge, just like I schedule a meeting. It elevates rest to the same status as work.
All right, I think it's time. Time for the pop quiz.
It is time. Listeners, I hope you're ready. And you! Are you ready to prove you weren't on autopilot for the last half hour?
Hit me with your best shot. I was not operating on autopilot.
Excellent start. Okay, question 1. If I'm driving home from work and I don't really notice the route or remember any of the drive, am I operating on autopilot or am I demonstrating egalitarian behavior?
That is the definition of mindless routine. You are on autopilot.
Correct. Question 2. Let's say I discover a new system, like using the Pomodoro technique, and it completely revolutionizes how efficiently I can study. Is that new system a time buffer, or is it a game changer?
That's a fundamental shift that changes the whole outcome. That is a game changer.
Right again. Question 3. I intentionally schedule 20 minutes of extra empty time between my train arriving and my first meeting, just in case there's a delay. What did I just create?
You created a necessary cushion for flexibility and for peace of mind. You created a time buffer.
Excellent. You've mastered these.
Yeah.
And the final question. When a community is founded on the principle that every single member receives equal resources and has an equal vote, what value defines that community?
That is the long word for fairness. That community is based on egalitarian principles.
Fantastic. You got all 4. And listeners, well done if you got them all right, too.
Phew.
So just to summarize the key language from today, remember these 3 core ideas.
Autopilot. That state of doing things without thinking. Your challenge is to break out of it.
Game changer. That revolutionary idea that transforms your results. Find your game changer. And number 3, time buffers. That essential cushion you build into your schedule to manage chaos.
What a deep dive. We started with the, frankly, terrifying realization that we only have about 4,000 weeks. And we've ended up with these really practical systems, GTD, Pomodoro, time blocking, that don't just help us do more, but help us spend those precious weeks with intention.
And here is the final provocative thought I want to leave you all with today.
Okay.
We talked about how GTD is all about getting open loops out of your head to achieve mental clarity. But historically, the first time management methods, like the industrial time and motion studies, they were created for one reason only.
To maximize corporate profit.
To maximize profit by optimizing every tiny movement a factory worker made.
That context is so important. The science of efficiency wasn't designed for personal fulfillment. It was designed for the factory floor.
It was. So the essential question for you, our listener, is this. How can you use these incredibly powerful systems, GTD, time blocking, to maximize your own personal sense of meaning, your time wealth, and your freedom? How do you make sure they serve your values, not just the demands of your job? The system is neutral. Your intention has to be personal.
That is the definition of intentional living right there.
Ah.
So here's your micro challenge for the week.
Mm.
Identify just one single activity you do on autopilot. Maybe it's your morning coffee routine, maybe it's scrolling on your phone. And this week, just once, intentionally change it to introduce some novelty. If you're feeling brave, use the word autopilot in a comment below.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this essential deep dive.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to English Unlimited podcast.
And I'm Jamie. Bye.
I'm Charlie. See you next time.